There is an extremely practical item from World War II that I always carry when I'm out in the field doing research and/or filming. You've probably guessed from the opening photograph of me in the snow at the Berghof in Bavaria. Though of course I'm often seen with a camera around my neck, I normally have a pair of binoculars packed into my rucksack. And not just any old binoculars. I own several pairs of World War II issue binoculars, and I use them fairly regularly for work. Some of you are probably rolling your eyes at this point, and indeed may even be typing a rude comment in the comments section asking why on earth would anyone want to use 80-plus-year-old binoculars in 2025. I use World War II binoculars because they are some of the best-made optical instruments you can obtain. They were not built for bird watching or hunting or spying on the neighbours, or any of the other civilian occupations modern people may still use binoculars for. No, these babies were built for war, on land, sea and air. They were built to last, and huge numbers have. And here's some news. You can still buy a very good pair of World War II binoculars for just a few pounds or dollars. So in the age of the smartphone, why carry a pair of binoculars if you're out in the countryside? I use mine for scouting out locations when filming, and for finding particular places to investigate and studying the details of buildings, landscape and so on. So what binoculars do I use? The pair I'm using in the photograph at the start of this video at the Berghof are American, a pair of Bausch & Lomb 6x30s manufactured in Rochester, New York in World War II, and they are marked with a crow's foot, indicating that this pair was used by the British or Canadian military. Apparently these US manufactured binoculars were sent to the British as part of the Lend-Lease Act, so thanks very much. These binoculars were issued to officers, as standard of course, and any other ranks that needed binoculars such as artillery, machine gun and mortar crews. The case is the US version, though unfortunately during one trip the rather worn catch broke, so though the binoculars still work perfectly well, they probably will have to be honourably retired for the time being. Another pair I often use are these binoculars Prismatic No. 2. A very rugged pair of British military binoculars manufactured for, I believe, the Air Ministry in World War II. The Mark II binoculars were manufactured by several companies including Barr and Stroud, Ross and Zeiss, having a by 7 magnification, and they are very shock resistant and waterproof. They're also quite heavy, probably because they're constructed from brass. The case is a really heavy-duty leather concoction, though you have to be careful with leather of this age as it can be quite brittle. I generally keep the binoculars out of the case and wear them crossways under one arm to keep them out of my way, but can be easily used. But my absolute favourite pair of World War II binoculars that I often take into the field is this pair of U-boat binoculars that I picked up at an auction a few years ago. These 7x50 armoured binoculars are very interesting. Made for use at sea, particularly on U-boats, they originally were covered in rubber armour to protect them during rough weather on the bridges of U-boats. Made by the firm of Lights, most of the rubber armour has been removed by the previous owner of my pair of binoculars, though the eyepieces still have it in place. Of course, rubber doesn't age very well, and I think this pair were some form of bring-back trophy from the war, probably from one of the naval bases the British captured in 1945, or indeed from the U-boats that actually surrendered in British ports at the end of World War II, and I'm sure were picked clean for souvenirs by Royal Navy personnel.
The surrender of his once great U-boat fleet. One by one they enter British ports and are taken over by men of the Royal Navy. These Germans, once the terror of Allied shipping, are now, like all their comrades in arms, nothing but prisoners of war.
And the veteran probably altered them for civilian use by removing the thick rubber armouring. The case is long gone, unfortunately. Though they are fairly big, They only weigh 2.8 pounds or 1.3 kilos and are comfortable to carry. The Germans called this type of naval binoculars tuna cans, and each pair carries a unique serial number just like a firearm, which is quite different from the mass-manufactured British and American binoculars. Besides the eyepieces are housings for silicate gel desiccate cartridges on prism plates, a feature of German naval binoculars to help overcome the effects of salt water and damp on the instrument. I have no idea if the cartridges are still inside, but the view through these binoculars is still sharp and clear 80 plus years after they were made. Each eyepiece is individually focusable to suit your own eyesight requirements. These are very high-quality binoculars, and I really enjoy using them, though my wife must be getting rather tired of me every time I spot something interesting through them, turning to her and yelling, "Alarm!" Right, well that's enough about my binoculars. I invite you to head down to the comments section and share with us any of your World War II objects that you still use today. I bet I'm not the only person still finding a practical use for the leftovers of the Second World War. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.